Good morning and welcome to On the Spot, a look at today in the headlines. This is a news broadcast by Zimbabwe Daily. News stories making the headlines: banks allowed to set foreign rates to tame Zimbabwe's black market. Pali turns hit on minister over varsity fees hike. Econet introduces smart USD bundles. Zimtrade targets new export markets. And now for the stories in detail. Zimbabwe is allowing banks to set their own Zimbabwe is allowing banks to set their own rates for exchanging US dollars in transactions of up to $1,000 as it seeks to ease pressure on weekly currency auctions and to tame a runaway power market. Lenders can now use a willing buyer, willing seller basis rather than being restricted to the official exchange rate for the local dollar, Central Bank Governor John Mangodia said in an interview. The move is an acknowledgement of pressure on the currency. Mangodia has previously rejected calls from industry to devalue the local unit and close the gap to the black market price. He has described that as chasing one's tail. The dysfunction had also helped spur inflation, which reached 75% in March. Members of National Assembly have requested Higher and Tertiary Education Minister Amon Murira to issue a ministerial statement in the House on the escalating fees charged to tertiary students. On Monday night, University of Zimbabwe students protested, saying the fees were too high after they were raised from 19,000 to 51,088 per semester. Newly sworn in Bizo MP Settlement Chiquinya of the Citizens Coalition for Change on Tuesday raised a point of interest in the National Assembly and called on Murira to issue a statement on the university fees hike. Following a humiliating electoral defeat in the just ended by-elections, MDCT leader Douglas Monzora has allegedly gone on a purging spree against members who question his leadership and the party's poor performance in the March 26 polls. However, some of the candidates have openly questioned his leadership qualities, leading to their suspension and expulsion. Civic groups have called for increased voter education awareness targeting mainly youth who constitute the majority of the country's voting population. They made the call during a post-by-election roundtable meeting held at Bulawayo Club hosted by the Community Podium and Center for Innovation and Technology in Bulawayo on Monday. National Youth Development Director Sibosiswe Dube said it was worrying that young people were not participating in electoral processes. A whistleblower who allegedly unmasked attempted rigging by a Zimbabwe Electoral Commission employee was yesterday charged with violating the Electoral Act. NDC Alliance's Gilbert Ngwende was granted $10,000 bail when he appeared before Mbare magistrate Nyasha Vitorini after spending a night in police custody. His matter was remanded to Tuesday next week for trial. Electoral watchdogs have called on government to unveil one-stop mobile voter registration centers for national identity cards and voter registration to ensure that citizens are able to vote in the general elections expected next year. Government launched a national mobile registration blitz to issue out birth certificates and national identity cards last Friday. The Zimbabwe Electoral Commission will also begin its voter registration blitz on April 11 and will run until April 30. But election observers feel that the two registration exercises can be carried out concurrently at a one-stop center to make voter registration automatic. Ahead of next year's harmonized election, President Mnangagwa says he is encouraged by the results of the recently held by-elections, where the ruling party snatched 2 seats from the opposition and won in several wards. In an interview with French publication La Tribune, President Mnangagwa said in 2023 the priority for the ruling party will be on the modernization of agriculture and the mining sectors. Turning to the economy, the Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe Governor Dr. John Mangudya says the new $100 note that is set to be introduced in the country will not be inflationary. He says the currency will improve convenience for the transacting public as the use of small value denominations has been rendered more cumbersome by inflation. Banknotes are essentially small change and hardly used anymore for shopping, where mobile and plastic money now dominate as Zimbabweans get out of the cash habit, but they are needed for things like bus fares and other small transactions. Meanwhile, defunct steel giant Zisco Steel is expected to be up and running in the next 12 months, according to Industry and Commerce Minister Dr. Zekai Nzenza. Dr. Nzenza said the government was proactive in its development agenda, and for the first time in over 2 decades, Zisco Steel would be back on its feet. She said there had been doubts over the revival of Zisco Steel after the government signed unsuccessful deals with potential investors such as ESA Holdings of Mauritius and R&F Construction Company of China. Old Mutual has joined the global community in celebrating the 10th anniversary of Global Money Week, an annual global awareness campaign aimed at financially equipping young people from an early age to make smart financial decisions for a brighter future. Held from the 21st to the 27th of March 2022, this year's edition ran under the theme Build Your Future, Be Smart About Money. Moving on, Econet Wireless Zimbabwe launches the smart US dollar bundles that will allow its customers to purchase airtime, data, and SMS products in US dollars. The company said the development, which followed relevant regulatory approvals, will provide convenience for its customers and help Econet generate the much needed foreign currency to reinvest in its network and to improve the customer experience. Fly City Air private airline has introduced a Harare Kwekwe flight. In a statement, the airline said the flights between the two cities would be on Mondays and Wednesdays. On the social scene, the Zimbabwe Civil Liberties and Drug Network (ZCLDN) has called on the government to step up the fight against drug and substance abuse in the country. In a statement, ZCLDN urged the government to implement the Zimbabwe National Drug Master Plan (ZNDMP) 2021 to 2023. The World Health Day is commemorated annually on April 7, and the theme is Our Planet, Our Health. Zimbabwe's decision to decriminalize HIV and AIDS transmission has courted world attention as legislators have been invited to Brussels, Belgium, by a global women and children's rights group to celebrate the milestone that the country has achieved. Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Health and Childcare chairperson Dr. Ruth Laborde said she and some committee members will be heading to Brussels next month for an international conference following an invitation extended to them by She Decides. She Decides movement supporting the rights of women and girls to celebrate the several milestones Zimbabwe has achieved in sexual and reproductive health and rights, SRHR. Zimbabwe's mining firms are set to cash in on the rally in global commodity prices, which have been spurred by jittery market conditions resulting from the Ukraine Russia conflict. Mining companies in the country are expected to ramp up production this year, with mineral exports expected to benefit from favorable international prices. An estimated 60% of Central Business District CBD office space is vacant after demand plunged significantly last year. Experts say businesses are opting for office parks and suburban offices with residential areas like Eastleigh, Belvedere, Alexandra Park, and Belgravia proving popular for office space. Property management firm Knight Frank attributed the rising voids in CBD office space to the COVID-19 pandemic, which forced businesses to resort to remote working. President Emerson Mnangagwa has reportedly rejected the Mines and Minerals Bill. This was revealed in the Zimbabwe Coalition on Debt and Development latest report. The report states that in that scenario, he would have to send the bill back to the National Assembly for revision or Constitutional Court so that its constitutionality may be decided. The government of Zimbabwe's spending is worrying the stakeholders who are concerned over the lack of service delivery compared to how public funds are spent. Zimbabwe Coalition of Debt and Development's latest report said that the government received nearly 1 billion United States dollars worth of special drawing rights from the International Monetary Fund as part of the general SDR allocation pegged at 650 billion to 190 member countries. Also making the headlines, presidential envoy and ambassador at large to the Americas and Europe, Prophet Hubert Angel, was requested by President Mnangagwa to meet with the country's permanent representatives to the United Nations in New York, Ambassador Albert Ranganai Chimbindi, to discuss how the two offices can partner in making Vision 2030 a reality. This was revealed by Angel in a Facebook post on Wednesday. The Zimbabwe Energy Regulatory Authority ZERA has increased the price of liquid petroleum gas (LP gas). In a public notice this Wednesday, ZERA announced that the retail price of LP gas for the month of April has been set at $2.32 and $337.96 per kilogram. We take a look at what's happening in Africa. Burkina Faso's former president Blaise Compaoré was sentenced to life imprisonment for complicity in the 1987 murder of his predecessor Thomas Sankara in a coup a military tribunal ruled on Wednesday. The charismatic the charismatic Marxist revolutionary Sankara was gunned down in the West African nation's capital, Ouagadougou, at the age of 37, 4 years after he took power in a previous push. Compaoré was charged in absentia along with his former head of security, Hyacinth Kafando, who was also sentenced to life in prison. Both have previously denied any involvement in Sankara's death, along with 12 other defendants accused of involvement in the plot, three of whom were declared innocent on Wednesday. Compaoré went on to rule for 27 years before being ousted in another coup in 2014 and fleeing to Ivory Coast, where he is still believed to live. Fondly known as Africa's Che Guevara, Sankara took power on a promise to thwart corruption and post-colonial influences, denouncing foreign aid as a control mechanism. And as we conclude this look at stories in the headlines, we take a look at the story of the murdered Morewa boy Tapiwa Makore. The family has claimed that his spirit appeared to their daughter recently and spoke to her. Tapiwa's father, Mnyaradzi, told Newsday that his 4-year-old daughter allegedly went into a trance with her eyes wide open and spoke to her deceased brother. We are told that Mnyaradzi said his daughter claimed to have seen the dismembered body of her brother. Tapiwa, then 7 years old, was murdered for suspected ritual purposes in September 2020 in Nyamutumbo village in Murewa. And we take a look at the world of sport. Chelsea's hold on the Champions League hangs precariously after Karim Benzema's hat-trick put Real Madrid in a position of power following the quarterfinal first leg at Stamford Bridge. Real coach Carlo Ancelotti made a winning return to the club, where he won the Premier League and FA Cup double after veteran France striker Benzema delivered his latest masterclass. Maxwell Cornet scored a late winner to end Burnley a vital win over fellow strugglers Everton in their bid to remain in the Premier League. The Ivorian capitalized upon two poor errors by Jordan Pickford and Ben Godfrey in the 85th minute to end Sean Dyche's side only their fourth league win of the season. Manchester United have edged closer to naming Ajax boss Erik ten Hag as their new manager. Old Trafford officials continue to insist the process of appointing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer permanent successor is not complete and that it is premature to say a deal has been done. However, it is understood that Ten Hag is now the favored candidate among senior figures at Manchester United. We continue to look at stories making the headlines around the country. We take a look at media in South Africa. SABC has reported that seven Zimbabwean armed robbers believed to have killed a South African man set Diepsloot under siege. A video footage that emerged online shows residents burning tires and other rubble to block off a road and declaring war at foreigners based in Diepsloot. The video shows multiple tires burning in a line along a street on Tuesday night. Residents are demanding more police units in the area as crime has been on a steady rise and they accuse foreign nationals of being behind the crimes. A Zimbabwean has been killed overnight by a violent mob which was hunting down foreigners in Johannesburg's Dispute Township as anti immigrant activities escalated attacks, the SABC has reported. Meanwhile, 24 undocumented immigrants, mostly Zimbabweans, have been arrested in that area. Many Zimbabweans trekked down south in search of greener pastures as the local economy crashed. The Harare administration is blaming sanctions for causing economic fall, but critics say it is corruption that has brought untold suffering to Zimbabweans. And finally, Zimbabwe and Mozambique agree on a joint venture to exploit gas at Buzi in Mozambique, as well as build a fertilizer plant for the benefit of both countries, President Mnangagwa has said. Speaking upon his arrival from a working visit in Mozambique, Mnangagwa said the two countries worked on a number of areas of cooperation. Zimbabwe Tobacco set to beg in more money for the economy. Zimbabwe's tobacco industry is looking to cannabis as a major revenue source, with anti-tobacco sentiments expected to dampen demand for one of the country's biggest exports. Anticipated demand for cannabis is projected to continue to grow, while tobacco output globally may decline 15% by 2030, according to Minwell Gudu, the CEO of Zimbabwe's Tobacco Industry and Marketing Board. Tobacco earned the country $819 million in revenue in 2021. And that brings us to the end of On the Spot, a look at headlines in the media right here in Zimbabwe and across Africa. Have yourselves a wonderful rest of day.